All right, good evening, everyone, and welcome to our first Toastmasters meeting of the new year. Hope everyone's holiday, New Year's, and all that was great. I know I enjoyed some well-deserved time off. Tonight we have a special guest. We have Lisa Purcells, our division director? Area director. Sorry. Hello, Lisa. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, everyone.
And the club mission, the mission of our Toastmasters Club is to provide a supportive and positive learning experience in which members are empowered to develop communication and leadership skills, resulting in greater self-confidence and personal growth. Let's hear it for our mission. With that, I will pass it off to our Toastmaster of the evening. It's Jean Symington Craig to take over the meeting. Thank you, Jean.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President. We're very pleased to have Lisa here today. And in fact, she was our division director a couple of years ago. So she really knows us. She really knows us. And it's always a pleasure to be here. And it's rather auspicious that she's here on the first meeting of the new year. So we're really glad to have her there. Tonight's meeting, we'll go ahead and get started. We do have some roles that we'd like to introduce. We are going to be having a prepared speech by Bob, a table topics, and our usual meeting format. So to start us off, let's ask our timer for the evening, Dan Craig, to tell us about his role.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, honored area director. I'm going to keep track of everything that occurs during the meeting tonight. We have a prepared speech by Bob, which will be 5 to 7 minutes. And I'm going to show him a red background, a green background at 5 minutes. A yellow background at 6 minutes and a red background at 7 minutes. And after that, he has 30 seconds to wrap up. Table topics are 1 to 2 minute speeches, and that would be green at 1, yellow at 1.5 minutes, red at 2 minutes with a 30-second grace period. Our speech evaluator will be 2 to 3 minutes. That's 2 minutes for green, 2.5 yellow, 3 minutes for red. We'll decide on the length of the table topics evaluator when we get there, and it'll be something of a similar pattern. I'll keep track and give a report at the end. Thanks.
Now, thank you for that, Dan. Now we can hear from our grammarian. Bob, are you done putting up what you're doing there? Or did you need an?
But I can read the grammarian if you would like.
Okay. Okay. Go ahead. Tell us what you'll be doing.
Greetings, fellow Toastmasters, honored guests, and viewers at home. This evening, my role as grammarian is as follows. It's my responsibility to pay close attention to all the speakers, listening carefully to their language usage. I'll take note of any improper language, as well as any outstanding words, quotes, sayings, thoughts. As grammarian, it's also my duty to introduce the word of the day. And I've sent that out to on chats. And today's meeting word is idiomatic, excuse me, idiomatic, yes. Which simply means using, containing, or denoting expressions that are natural to a speaker. An example of the word would be bite the bullet, simply meaning to get something over with because it's inevitable. Or another example would be break a leg, meaning good luck.
Yeah.
Okay.
And each speaker is encouraged to say the word of the day in their speeches, and I will give the grammarian report when called upon at the end of the meeting. Back to you, Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you, Mr. Grammarian. Now we'll hear from our counter, which is me. And my job tonight is to count the filler words that we're using, which we don't want to use. Words and sounds such as well, you know, so, like, but, repeats, starting a sentence again, and any other customizable favorite filler words that you may have. And I'll be giving a report at the end of the meeting. Thank you. I would clap, but anyway. And then we'll also hear from our general evaluator, Carmen Antacona, towards the second half of the meeting. And our joke master for the evening is Dan Craig. Oh boy, oh boy. All right.
Way to go, Dan.
With that, we'll go ahead and move into our prepared speaker section. And this will be Bob. And to introduce the objectives for Bob's speech will be his evaluator, Lisa Purcells. Lisa?
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters. I have the evaluation form for Bob's speech. Bob's speech is a splash of cologne. And the purpose of his persuasive speaking speech is to understand the types of persuasive speeches and deliver a persuasive speech at the club meeting. A couple of things about that he's going to be focusing on is that he needs to deliver a well-organized speech, that he can choose to appeal to emotion, ethics, or logic in the speech. Speech may be humorous, informational, or any style of that the member chooses. And finally, the speech should not be a report on the content of the persuasive speaking project in pathways. It's 5 to 7 minutes too. Is the timer needs to know that. Arthur?
I'm having difficulty understanding, Lisa. Is anyone else?
I am
So-
too.
The sound quality.
There's a little bit of feedback going here.
Yeah.
Okay. Is this better?
I think it is a little better. Did
It almost sounds like she's in like a wind tunnel or something. Does anyone else get that effect?
Lisa, can you say something? Say a sentence or so.
Yeah. The speech for Bob is called A Splash of Cologne.
Yeah.
Is that better?
I
That's
think
better.
that sounds better. So,
Okay. I can dial back in using my phone too, if this is going to be
well,
hard to understand.
did you get that better? I think if you articulate pretty, just well, Lisa, not that you're not, but maybe that would.
It's kind of chopping off the end of your words, so
Okay.
I can
I
understand her fine.
can
Extra,
too.
there's just extra noise.
could you just double check your Zoom setting and see if your mic is turned up pretty high? That might be it.
Is that better?
I think so.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. All right, good. Thank you. We always have a little bit of tinkering that we can do, make things perfect.
The joy of virtual meeting.
Yeah, the joy of virtual meetings. All right. So back to me. Thank you, Lisa, for giving us a heads up on the objectives for Bob's speech. Introduce Bob. Bob lives in Washington, Iowa, and is self-employed, running his company, going on 28 years, helping homeowners have peace of mind that their basements remain dry and stable. Fogel Basement Repair has a 5-star rating and maintains strong customer satisfaction. It's always good. Bob enjoys his free time with his children and grandchildren and taking time to go hiking, golfing, and riding his Harley. He's also been a Toastmaster. His first meeting was the very last in-person meeting that we had. He joined that night, and it's been virtual ever since. He's totally regular and just a pleasure to have with us. So without further ado, thank you, Bob. Go ahead and let's hear what you have to say.
Thank you, Jean, for that wonderful introduction. As I stated earlier, I want to greet everyone, my fellow Toastmasters, our honored guest, Lisa, and our viewers at home. It's been said that if you are in danger or harm, or even physical violence, one should not only yell for help, but fire. Interestingly enough, fire has many uses and meanings in our American language. Here are just a few. You would say, when starting a car, we go fire it up. Or when someone's angry, that guy, he's fired up. Or when the beautiful cheerleaders are out there prancing around, they're trying to fire up the athletes to get going to win the game. Mm-hmm. And who could forget Mr. Trump's quip, "You're fired." This current pandemic is knocking on everyone's doorstep, and people are fired up. Typical human response, I've found, is to bring blame to the origins of this plague, and for good reason. As to bring attention to the origins of this plague and possibly restitution. This pandemic has lit fires of fear in most people, if not all people. Fears that they maybe never experienced before, such as loss of family, friends, jobs, food, etc., just to name a few. 24/7. We have relentless social media, news reports, government reports, medical staff pulling us in every direction. Some advocating total lockdown and living in total fear with no hope. To the other end of the spectrum, simply stating that, yeah, there's a pandemic out there. It could land on you. You might be sick for a while, but basically you're just going to pretty much pull through. It really doesn't matter where you find yourself in this pandemic. What my goal is I would like to spark a fire in you, to persuade you to change your focus, if only briefly, with hopes that will last very long into the future. Now, this formula is a very simple formula. It's been around, it has great success. And here it is, I'll lay it out for you. All you simply need to do is, before you go to bed tonight, is pull out just a piece of paper. And on that piece of paper, I want you to write down a minimum of 5 things that you're thankful for. Here's just a few ideas to kind of stimulate your thinking. Number 1 is your health. Granted, maybe our health isn't as what we like it to be, but it's good enough that things are still working a little bit because we're all here with your smiling faces. Mm-hmm. 2, money in the bank. Yeah, okay, that's always good to be thankful for. Number 3, good friends. Number 4, interestingly, is freedom of religion. Because there are people in this country in our world, not so much our country, that do not have that freedom. They're told what to believe, and we are allowed to free how we want to. And number 5 is our parents. Whether you got along or you didn't get along, we got to be thankful because here we are for our good old parents.
Mhm.
I always say when I write this stuff down that it's better, you will have more greater impact in your life with a dull pencil than with a sharp mind. And you only need to read them aloud to yourself. And why do I say read it to yourself? Because remember, this is for your peace of mind, for you, that you and all that you have, that you can be thankful for that what you have, and for what's coming in the future. Thankful for what's good things are going to be coming for you. I once watched this interview of this woman. She was married, children, grandchildren. Her story unfolds is that she lives in the Middle East. And in her country, occasionally Katyusha rockets land in her country. And occasionally in her neighborhood. And suicide bombers are no stranger. One would think that she would live her life in total fear. But I found her words, spoken with great authority, but yet soothing and soft. As I watched this interview, all of a sudden it was like, hit me right there between the eyes. It went right down into my spirit. This woman was not in fear. She simply stated that I go about my day with my head held high, not imagining the worst, but living, loving. She was radiated with this life of gratitude that the life she has and had. So I challenge you, I challenge me to persuade our minds, our hopes, our fears that we may live life, have love, and be thankful. I believe it was Franklin D. Roosevelt in his inauguration speech simply stated that we have nothing to fear but fear itself. One other gentleman that strikes my interest, his name was King Solomon, and he lived over 3,000 years ago. He simply wrote, for us to eat, to drink with gladness of heart. And don't forget to splash on cologne.
Mhm. Thank you, Bob. Lots of idiomatic expressions there, fired up and spark you to just, it was replete with examples of your word. Mr. Timer, would you please give us 2 minutes to give some evaluation feedback to Bob in our chat? Just please direct in private chat to Bob, and we'll go from there. All right. Lisa, what we can do is, because we only have one speaker and we want to make sure you have time to do your evaluation, prepare your evaluation, we can go on to table topics if you'd like a little more time to work on it.
Yeah, that would be helpful. Thank you.
Okay, good. All right, so Lisa will crank along in the background. Of course, once you're done, feel free to hop in on the table topics, and I will go ahead and hand it off to our table topics master tonight, who is Art. Take it away, Art.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster. Fellow Toastmasters and guests, tonight we are working with the theme, Places I Have Known. And I'm going to generalize that a little bit to say the theme is also places I have been. Who would like to be the first to talk about places? Dan, I see you smiling. Are you thinking about a place you can talk about?
If I'm smiling, my mind must be empty. Could somebody time me?
I will time you, Dan.
Okay. How many have I got to choose from?
15.
15.
15?
15.
Jeez.
All right.
Let's have number one.
Okay, good choice. Tell us about a place that you have been where you learned something that you are glad you learned.
Mr. Topics Master, fellow Toastmasters, honored guest. A place that I've been that I am glad that I was able to learn something important for me was in Mexico, Cabo San Lucas. It's a vacation spot. What did I learn there? The main thing that I learned by going on that vacation was how cool humpback whales are. They're just incredible. This is the type of whale you often see pictures of them leaping up full body out of the water. And you wonder, first of all, how on earth did an animal that size manage to launch that far? But it was a fun vacation. We went to an all-inclusive resort, and the first afternoon that we got there, we went to the windows overlooking the ocean, and immediately as we pulled the curtains apart, I saw a humpback whale jump. And it turns out, for whatever wonderful reason, I saw at least one whale jump every day, the entire time we were there. As we were driving away, it was pretty early in the morning, and we were winding up a hill that gave us a further and further vista of the ocean.
Yellow.
And I looked back in the direction of where we'd been staying, and there was another one. It was just such a wonderful thing.
Red.
And I became so impressed by whales in general, and particularly the humpbacks. They're really quite wonderful. And it was fun to be able to watch them from the shore rather than having to take an excursion out in a boat or whatever. That was something that I enjoyed learning at a different place. Thanks for the question.
I apologize. I was looking for the timer cards and I could not find them where I put them the last time. So, Dan, did you take them? Huh? Okay.
I am the timer after all.
I know, but you already have your other screens. Okay, well, that's it. Good. Thank you.
Who would like to deal with question number 2? Lisa. Great, you're off mute. The question is about places I have known. Tell us about a place that you knew what it was like before you got there because you had gotten information through pictures or people.
Thank you, Mr. Table Topic Master. The first place that popped up in my head is the Children's Museum in St. Louis. I think it's just called the museum. We went on a family trip. My son at the time was just graduating from high school, and I had a 7-year-old son, 2 boys, and then my husband. And it was back in 2008 when there was the great flood of Cedar Rapids and Corval. And we had just taken off the morning after the flood happened the day before. My husband wasn't sure if he was going to have a job when he came back, so he was kind of grouchy about that. We're celebrating our 25th wedding anniversary, I believe, at the time. And I had this elaborate plan set up for St. Louis. We were going on a bit of a budget, but I wanted to make it really special because it was my son's last family vacation before he moved off from high school. And on top of everything else, my oldest son that just graduated had just finished recovering from mono, which is a debilitating, really a terrible virus that takes a long time to get over. So I was having a good old time trying to talk everyone into going from one place to the next each day. And this nondescript place called the museum was not high on anybody's list. We drove to the location and I knew it was going to be incredible, but no one else in the car thought so. As we're driving along, it looked like it was some kind of industrial park area where people go to work instead of having fun. There was no big parking lot there. You had to park on the street and find your way to this building that did not have any real signage at all. My husband the whole time was just kicking and screaming going, can't we do something else today? I'm like, nope, we're doing this. As soon as we got in the door, you could tell right away it was going to be a really interesting experience. And we had the time of our lives. And my husband to this day, 12 years later, still talks about how I dragged him into that place and he had one of the best times ever. So really what I think about when I think about a place that I knew it was great even before I got there was that museum in St. Louis. And I would recommend it to anyone planning a family trip to St. Louis. Back to you, Mr. Tabletop Minister.
Thank you. Question number 3, who is interested? Jean. Tell us about a place that you have been. You did not want to go beforehand, but you are glad that you went after having been there.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters and viewers at home. In 2004, my mom and she took me on a 3-week introduction to Portugal and Spain. It was at the time it was called Elder Hostel. It's now called Rhodes Scholar. Very interesting, very packed with all kinds of educational material. I didn't know that much about Portugal or Spain. I just wanted to do whatever my mom wanted to do. And she was offering to go with me or take me, and it would be an adventure with her. I'm not really big on ancient buildings and such. And on that trip, I found myself, as we got off of the bus at each stop, was something that I didn't think I was going to like. Finding that once I got into the details of it, and we had excellent guides and excellent educators who gave us background, it was just fascinating. I remember this one monastery we went to, and I thought, at the time, I thought, ho hum, a monastery. But it was really interesting, and we learned so much about French royalty, sorry, not French, Spanish royalty, and what was going on, and who was marrying whom, and the various characters. It wasn't something I'd ever thought I would be interested in, and I didn't prepare for the trip in any way. I just went. But every time I got off that bus thinking, well, okay, we'll just go check it out, I always came back feeling enriched and happy that I had gone to see whatever the building or the presentation, the museum had been.
I would like to actually be the next. Hello, Carmen. Would you like to be next?
Mhm.
Yes.
Yay, Carmen.
Tell us about a place you know of or have been to that surprised you.
Good evening, fellow Toastmasters, honored guests, and viewers at home. Every time I come back to my country, maybe because it's not too frequent, a couple of years apart, the city, Lima, is always changing. For some reason, I always feel lost, even in my own neighborhood. I don't know what bus to take for near cities. I feel like a really kind of dummy person because I need to call Uber in order to just drive a little bit because I'm not sure if the bus I'm gonna take is gonna just turn right or turn left, and then I'm gonna be totally lost. So the last time it was like that. I was taking too many Ubers that at the end I said, well, after 2 weeks I need to learn something. But even though the city is bigger every time, stores that I used to remember, they are not there anymore. They are big, like malls, big cities with museums. Even when I go back to the museums that I remember before, now the museum is changing and I don't remember things that I used to be. So it's kind of dynamic, and it a little bit surprised me too, because when I went back to my family and they remember how was the museum before, I said, what happened to the museum? It wasn't like that. but it's kind of funny because I go with my son, and he enjoys it. It's like a experience renewing every time I go back. Thank you for the question.
Madam Toastmaster, how are we doing for time? We have Lisa.
We still have more time.
Okay.
Do we have another? Aaron, did you want to go?
If someone wants to evaluate me.
Oh, you're the evaluator. Well, it's kind of like getting a get out of jail free card. You get to do a table topics and you don't have to be evaluated.
I'll evaluate you.
Okay.
So Aaron, with the theme places I have known, tell us about a time when you visited some place that you expected to like, but it did not measure up.
Bummer.
Thank you for the question, Mr. Table Topics Master. Well, Toastmasters, honored guests, and viewers at home. It's the happiest place in the world, right? Disney World. Or at least that's how I remembered it when I was younger. There's that nostalgia factor for me with Disney World because I went so many times when I was a kid. I believe from the ages of 2 to 10, we went 6 or 7 different times. We only skipped out on a couple of years. And I always hear about these stories of the first time I went on the Dumbo ride as a kid, and I have all these lovely memories of all these rides. And then all of a sudden my parents were like, all right, we're going back. And I was about 20 years old. And so I was like a kid again, like all giddy to go back to Disney World and experience it as an adult. And actually I was over 21 because I remember I was drinking while I was there, and that was awesome. Being able to drink at Disney World. And then we got there, and it was kind of like how Carmen said, everything had changed. The Disney World that I remember was not the same. There was this focus on these wristbands, these electronic wristbands you had to wear. And so everything was all scanning. You had to scan everything. And so you had to plan your day according to how you had planned it in advance, because you could only, like you booked in advance the ride you were going to ride at 1 o'clock. So then you had to plan around, okay, we got to be here at this time.
Ooh.
And then we got to be here at another time. And we have our reservation at this restaurant here. So it just felt like we were constantly, I really want to go ride that ride or go see that, but we got to go over here because we're booked on this ride and we can't miss it. It just felt like we were always being pulled in different directions. And it was just like, I just want to relax and just be able to explore, to just walk in a direction and then get pulled into all these different directions and explore like a little kid. But no, you were on this set path you had to follow that you planned in advance. And it was very, very aggravating. Back to you, Mr. Table Topics Master.
That one qualified.
Okay, we have time for one more.
Okay.
Art, did you say you wanted to go?
Yeah.
All right, well then I have a question for you, because you don't get to ask your own question because that's not impromptu.
Go.
All right, okay. If you could go back to some place you went to in the past, which one would you like to revisit and why?
Thank you. If I could go back to 1958 in British Columbia, Canada, on a family car vacation that started in Calgary, headed west, I would revisit the campground in Banff Provincial Park that we visited in 1958, intending to go see Lake Louise, but unable to get there for some reason that I cannot remember. So we pitched a tent in this campground, large campground at Banff Provincial Park. And when we went to sleep, it started raining. And it rained and it rained. And even the ditching that we had around the tent finally overflowed and things were getting wet, and we had to abandon the tent and go to the three-sided shelter that everybody else was going to because they were flooding. And there was a huge wood stove in the middle of the shelter with a pot of water big enough you could climb into it. It was so big. And the water was getting hot and the fire was roaring, and people had brought their guitars and other instruments. And we stood around drinking hot beverages or sitting in the corner and singing with strangers all night. And it was fabulous. It was an international love fest. And in the morning time, we gathered up all of our wet stuff, crammed into the back of the station wagon and took off for I don't remember where. Thank you for the opportunity to talk about it.
I'm going to say that we're done on this section. Now I will hand it over to our general evaluator, who will handle the evaluation section, both Lisa, our speaker evaluator, and Aaron, our table topics evaluator. And we got to vote on table. First, we have to find out who qualified. Thank you, Mr. Timer. Did you qualify? You were over by, okay, no, you did not.
What's going
You're
on?
mute.
You're on mute, Dan. I can hear you in the other room, but that's about it. Okay.
Everybody qualified but me. That's Lisa, Jean, Carmen, Aaron, and Art.
But I might have gotten, I might have jumped the gun on the timing.
Well, now you tell me that after my dreams are crushed.
So, aw. All right, so Dan was the classic example. If he hadn't thanked the audience, he would have been on time, but there you go. Go ahead and send to me your votes for best table topics. All right, and while we're sending those in, we'll go ahead now and let Carmen go ahead and get started. Thank you, Carmen, as our general evaluator.
Thank you, Madam Toastmasters. I'm just going to introduce Lisa to evaluate the speech for tonight. Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam General Evaluator, fellow Toastmasters, and especially Bob. Bob, you have a very timely topic that you delivered tonight as your persuasive speech. Who doesn't need more hope and gratefulness in their life? I think what the heart of your speech was so vital to all of us right now, especially as we're turning into a new year. You're very practical in your delivery of what to do with anxiety and really fear that has kind of been building up with us. You mentioned COVID, which I think is a really great example of how we need to do something in our life to bring about more hopefulness. And I love the practicalness of presenting just a blank piece of paper and saying, just write down 5 things. And I love how you gave us your examples of 5 things just to let us understand what you were trying to drive home to us or to inspire us. And the other thing too that I thought was really effective was when you used the example of the Middle Eastern woman that was so hopeful. And that was the other part of your speech that really was inspiring to me, was to hear your vocal variety when you said, hit me in the eyes. I could just feel your personal revelation and how that woman spoke to you in a way that drove you to want to speak to us today about a practical way of getting rid of our fears. All of that was just amazing. I really was involved in your speech to listen to you talk about each part of that. A couple of things I think that would make it even better would be to structure the speech just slightly different. When you started it by talking about danger and fire, I thought, wow, what's going to happen next? Fire and danger. And you went into a lot of examples of how people use the word fire. And I'm not sure if I really followed along with how that helped your topic on taking care of hopefulness. I think if maybe you started with COVID, or another idea is at the end, I thought the ending was just a little bit weak too, because you talked about two separate quotes. They were kind of along the same lines, but to me, I felt like without explaining why you liked those quotes, they just kind of hung out there on their own independently. So maybe you could start your conversation with a splash of cologne. What does that have to do with COVID? You know, just to kind of go, make us go, what? What is he going to talk about? You know, and then tie them together. COVID is fear. And then splash of cologne was just a fun way, a lighthearted way of getting you to take action, to get hopeful and grateful in your life. So again, your speech was great. I love the topic, and I love how you worked it through in the middle, just kind of change a little bit about the beginning and end, and it would be a speech worthy of a contest, seriously, with the craziness around us. I'm excited about hearing another speech from you. I hope I get to do that. And back to you, Madam General Evaluator.
Thank you, Lisa.
Lisa, I received.
Art, you just froze. Let's go ahead and have Carmen go ahead and continue.
Sure.
Mhm.
We are going to have our table topics evaluator for today, Aaron Russell. Take it away, Aaron.
And how many table topics do we have so we know how much the timing
I have
is?
5,
We have 5. Counting you or not counting you?
not counting me.
Okay, that's maybe a 3 to 4.
That's what I was thinking.
Okay. Mr. Timer. All right. Great. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam General Evaluator. Fellow Toastmasters, honored guests, viewers at home, an excellent round of table topics tonight, led by our excellent table topics master, Art Atkinson, who had some very excellent questions. Starting off with Dan, he was asked about a place he went where he's glad he learned something. He talked about going to Cabo, New Mexico, and learned how cool whales are. Took his time, greeted the audience, and he answered the question right away. Almost immediately, he said, well, I went to Cabo, New Mexico, where I learned how cool whales are. And so I like the fact that he got straight to the point, especially with the 1 to 2 minute table. He was very, very enthusiastic about his answer. You could see that in his voice and expression. He told us how impressed he was by them, but I would have liked to have heard maybe how or why. Like what about the whales impressed him so much? Maybe use gestures to show how big these whales are and give vivid description of what about it just inspired him so much. I would have liked to have heard a little bit more about that. Lisa, she was asked about a place that she knew was great before she even got there. And she talked about this, the city museum that she went to. And she gave this vivid description of this just event after event that was just ruining her vacation. And kind of how botched it all became, but how this museum basically saved the whole thing. The only thing I'd say about Lisa is maybe try to center yourself a bit more in your camera. You're pretty far back, so it's hard to see you very well and see your lovely face and your expressions as well as I'd like. So I appreciate, if possible, maybe centering yourself behind the camera a little bit more. Jean was asked about a place she didn't want to go but was glad she went. She talked about this archaeology tour of Portugal she went on with her mother. Again, she got right into the answer right away and told us what the scenario was and elaborated on each of her points about why she was reluctant to come and eventually why she was happy she went. I would have liked to have heard her kind of juxtapose her attitude before and after, maybe like an inner voice in her head, like, oh my God, we're going to seeing this stupid building. And then afterwards, like, oh my gosh, that was really great. I learned this, and I can take all these great events home and these tidbits of knowledge, and how I'm so much inspired, but that kind of juxtaposing before and after her attitude about the whole thing. Carmen was asked about a place that surprised her, and she talked about the city, Lima, and all the changes over time that have made the city very different than what she remembers. It's interesting in that she actually talked about how it surprised her in a negative way. I thought that was an interesting spin on the question because I was expecting something that surprised her in a positive way. And the only thing was I got mixed opinions on the end about her feelings on the city. She was kind of talking about how she felt like an alien in the city. Then she talked about how she also enjoys going back there. And so the conclusion was a little rocky in that it almost tried to change the tone of the whole rest of the speech. Finally, we had Art, who was asked about a place that he'd like to revisit. He talked about this campground at Banff Provincial Park. Almost this vivid description, almost dreamlike, where they got rained out of their vacation, and so they pitched a tent and had this big merry event with drinks and guitars and everything. I thought it was almost like a vivid dream than a real event. It almost seemed like, and I would have just liked to have heard maybe how that compares with the actual vacation you had planned. You know, I mean, I'm guessing that your opinion was that you much preferred this impromptu part than the actual vacation, but I'd like to have heard a little bit more about that. Thank you. Thank you very much, Eric. Excellent table.
Thank you, Aaron. I'm just going to call for the for today's for today's timing. Could you give us the report done for the timer?
Oh,
As far as which evaluators qualified?
that's where we are. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yes, we had
So-
one evaluator qualify. That was Aaron.
All right. So Aaron, could you-
Aw.
now I'm just going to a name for the persons that's gonna give us the report for tonight.
Mhm.
We are going to start with our timer, Dan Craig. Could you give us your report, please?
Thank you, Madam General Evaluator, fellow Toastmasters. Bob's speech was 7 minutes, 9 seconds. In table topics, Lisa was 2 minutes, 14. Jean was 2 minutes, 2. Carmen, 2 minutes, 5. Aaron, 2 minutes, 15. Art, 2 minutes, 15. I don't know my exact time. I was just over 2.5. Jean?
You were 2 minutes and 33 seconds.
Okay. Evaluators, Lisa was 3 minutes and 37 seconds. I know that Aaron was less than 4.5. but I cleared the stopwatch and I didn't write down the time. But I know it was less than 4.5.
Okay.
That's my report.
Close, I know that.
Thank you. Our grammarian for today is Bob Fagon. Could you give us the report, please?
Yes. The city grammarian report goes as follows. Dan, he did really good in his thing with humpback whales. What I really liked when he was parting, he said it was further and further vista. That's an interesting little phrase. I like that. It was pretty catchy. Lisa, the Great Flood of '08, that was very interesting. And it was incredible that a woman's tuition kind of knew more than her husband knew. I kind of like the way she put that. But he had the time of his lives. And he must be a good man if he's always complimenting his wife, said, "Oh, honey, you were right. That's always a good one for the family and for the marriage." So Jean, she was upfront about not being thrilled. But when she hit the monastery, I thought it was good. And then her phrase that I really liked, she was enriched and happy. Carmen, she was that struck me, her thing that she spoke out was that she needed to call an Uber when she went home. I thought that was kind of funny. And that it was dynamic. And Aaron, he had lover memories. His little phrase I enjoy was, "Oh, giddy." You don't hear that too often. It was like something Scrooge would say or something. Art, when I'm on his things, he liked to revisit some things, but what always amazed me about Art is he always remembers in detail 40 years ago the name of a camping area when I anything. That's my amazement. And that's my report.
Thank you, Bob.
Use of the word.
No one used the word. I was looking for it.
Jean used it.
Oh, I missed it.
They used it right at the beginning.
Yeah, I used it on your speech.
Oh,
You probably had so much blood rushing through your head at that point, you just didn't hear it.
I think you're probably right, Jean. I was trying to come back down just a little bit.
Yeah, completely over your head. All right.
Good job, Jean.
Yeah.
Hey.
Okay.
Jean, could you give us the report for the counter, please?
Yes. All right. Bob had 2 one 1 kind of, 1 so. Mostly picked up in that last piece, actually, the grammarian's report. Can't let your guard down. Dan was clean as a whistle. Lisa had 2 1 1 so, 3 kind ofs. We count kind ofs as filler, as something. And more than 5 ands. So that's our club rules, is that we don't want to embarrass someone with triple digits of anything. So, but combining sentences and. So that was that. And a little bit of uptalk. That was the other little piece. Sentences ending up. Carmen, 1 2 1 repeat, and 1 kind of. Aaron, I do 2 lines for Aaron because it's just too much to try to squeeze it all in on 1 line. But I know he wants all this feedback.
Yeah.
So that's why he gets it. The first part of the meeting, he had 3 likes, 1 repeat, and 1 kind of like. And then the second part of the meeting, he had 5 uhs or 5 uhs or uhs, ahs or uhs, 4 kind ofs, and 2 likes. Art.
Oh, that's not.
Art had 5 ands, and I think that got going because he was saying, and there were people in the tent, and or the lean-to thing, and we were drinking hot drinks, and everyone's sitting around singing, and everyone is on and like that. I'm thinking Art is still here, even though he's frozen a little bit. He seems to.
No, I think he's.
Oh, he's back. Okay, I thought your expression had changed, but I wasn't sure.
For a while, everybody was frozen.
Yeah, there's a funny thing going on tonight. It's not usually like this. All right, and so that is my report. Thank you, Madam General Evaluator. Mhm.
And our joke master for tonight is Dan Craig.
Yay!
Thank you, Madam General Evaluator, fellow Toastmasters. I saw a post on Facebook that was 50 one-liners by Stephen Wright. Does everybody know who Stephen Wright is? He's a complete deadpan
Yeah.
comic with an odd little voice, but he is funny. I'm not going to give you 50. I don't have that much time.
Yeah.
The first, I'd kill for a Nobel Peace Prize. Borrow money from pessimists. They don't expect it back. Half the people you know are below average. 99% of lawyers give the rest a bad name. 82.7% of all statistics are made up on the spot. A conscience is what hurts when all your other parts feel so good. All those who believe in psychokinesis, raise my hand. I almost had a psychic girlfriend, but she left me before we met. How do you tell when you're out of invisible ink? And finally, if everything seems to be going well, you have obviously overlooked something. Madam General Evaluator.
Thank you, Dan. Back to you. I'm gonna get
Back to you.
my evaluate. Yes. I am the general evaluator, so I'm just gonna give the evaluators for Lisa. She was greeting at the beginning of the evaluator. I like when she got positive remarks at the beginning because it gives confidence to the speaker. In the evaluation, she was stating that there was the hand gestures were really good for Bob. Also the vocal variety. She gave positive remarks. And what I really liked it was the feedback. Her feedback was really in detail. When she was saying a sentence, she was at the same time trying to answer that one in a way that she thinks is better. My suggestion for her evaluation will be to work a little bit in the function of the microphone. Right now it's not working well. I was having a little bit of trouble to understand you some parts of the sentences. Also your timing, a little bit more careful with your timing so you don't go over. But at the end, it was a really great evaluation. For Aaron, you greet the audience, and I really like the way that you state a question, and then you remind us at the same time how the person was responding the pronoun speech. I really like it because you were reading details. You were really giving good suggestions to every single one. And my suggestions for you just to have a little bit more eye contact, even though we are in Zoom. Sometimes I see that you are reading because your eyes are not at the level of the camera. And also a little bit of more hand gestures, but I know they have a really good facial gesture, so I think those are good too. At the end, it was a great evaluation for both of you. Thank you. Back to you, Madam Toastmasters.
Thank you, Madam General Evaluator. We have some results. First, we have our best speaker for the evening, none other than Mr. Bob Fogel. Yay! All right. There's hope for you. And when you go to bed tonight, you can write down something you're thankful for. You won best speaker.
Speaker, top of the list.
Top of the list.
Yeah.
All right.
Cherish
Extra stars. All right. Our best evaluator was Aaron Russell. Woo! Okay. No. All right. And then our best table topics, drum roll. Aaron Russell again. Aaron Russell. Woo!
Boy.
All right. So with that, thank you for all of that participation. I will turn it back to our president, Aaron Russell. Again, Aaron Russell.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster. And fellow Toastmasters, thank you all for another successful meeting. And of course, thank you to Lisa Purcells for attending tonight's meeting as our area director. We always appreciate her sitting in on our meeting, so thank you. I have just one announcement that I have, and that is that our monthly officer meeting is tomorrow at 8 p.m. I'll send out a link and an agenda to that probably later tonight while you guys are all asleep.
Not me.
And yeah.
Yes, please.
Yes.
Or I'm gonna forget it.
Yeah, and with that, I will pass it off to Lisa to talk to us a little bit.
About contests and I know what's, yeah.
Yes, I hope this audio is better. I switched to a different audio device.
Big
to
difference.
sound better.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll keep that in mind. All right, so there's two things that I wanted to mention. One is that I saw that there was 4 people trained for the second round of officer training. If anyone missed out, there are 2 more remote Zoom trainings coming up in January. One is on Saturday. Let's pull that up
The
again.
16th. The 16th.
Saturday the 16th. Yep. And then there's a Wednesday at 6 o'clock on the 20th of January. So if anybody missed out, those are 2 other opportunities to do that. And we will use the same type of format. So if you need some encouragement about what you're going to get trained on, feel free to talk to the other 4 people that went from your club. The other thing too I want to mention is we are looking at doing our contests virtually by on Sunday afternoon. Is there anyone that would object to attending a Sunday afternoon contest for the area? Okay, I'll keep that in mind.
Yeah.
You should have your club contest, I believe, by the early March in order to be ready. We don't have the designated Area 81 contest date set up yet, but I believe it's going to be towards the end of March. So early March would be a good time to set up your club contest. And this year's club contest will include the international speech, and that goes all the way to international conference. And the second one we picked is humorous speech.
Humorous.
And I know I heard at least one person today that would definitely be a welcome addition to our contest. So challenge yourselves. You know, let's get a winner again from this club. That'd be great. I think that's, yeah, exactly. I think that was everything I had. Does anybody have any questions for me?
Lisa, just a question. In the officer training, are you going to be doing your bit with like that really good overview of pathways and all of that? Are you doing that, or someone doing that?
Yeah, I didn't get asked to do it, so it must be someone else that's doing it.
Okay. And isn't
But
there?
if you guys ever have any,
Go ahead.
if you want me to do a pathways training, like I could do some kind of a shortened version of that for a future meeting, I'm willing to do that.
Oh, that's nice. What was I going to say? Oh, isn't there some sort of specially focused pathways meeting coming up? Was it early February or early March or something?
Yeah, like a pathway summit. I
Yeah.
don't see it on the calendar yet, but let me check into that and I can send you an update by email.
Okay. That's really good, you guys, to really dig in. And Lisa's pretty much an expert because she was part of the original ambassador. She was an ambassador. So she was taught a bunch of things to go out and teach other people, but she's also applied everything because she's really into doing her pathways. And so she's learned a lot by experience too. So really good. There was one other question I had. So we need to have our club contest by, you said, beginning of March?
Yes, I think that our contest is going to be somewhere around the middle to the end of March.
The area.
Then
Okay.
have the division early April, and then our district one later in April.
Is
So that
district
kind of
still?
gives you a little time to react to feedback you get at the club level to make it ready for our area. And then we like to try to give you at least 10 days between contests, so you get a chance to develop it more for the next contest when you win.
And is the district event still trying to be held in person, or do you know what the thinking is at this point?
I'm not sure what the thinking is. I know that they want to have it in person, but they're trying to be ready for it to be a virtual event as well.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
But so we know for certain that I guess obviously the club and the area will be virtual. We know that for certain.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
And the division. And the division?
I'm not sure about the division yet. I've just been focusing on the area planning, but I'll check on that too and let you know.
So just my thinking is if you're planning to do a speech, try to incorporate the virtual space into your speech and try to find an area kind of like those speeches that we watched for the international contest where like a nice clear background, you don't want to have your dirty laundry in the background or something, like
your bedding, your pillows.
Yeah, you want it to be what are you trying to say?
And you don't want a virtual one like myself too. The virtual one where you
That's also
in and out of the picture. Yeah.
Just be trying to incorporate that in your contest speeches, or also be flexible to the possibility of an in-person if the district is in person. Yeah, stuff to think about.
Where's the district at? Where's the location?
If it happens in
we-
person.
If we hold one this year, it will be in the Quad Cities.
The Quad Cities.
Hey, that works for me.
I know.
Yeah, Now, Aaron works at night. And so if a contest on Sunday afternoon, because he goes to work Sunday night, you wouldn't have to be driving because you'd already be there. So it's not nearly the situation. Okay, I'm just trying to protect your sleep.
Yeah. Well, I usually sleep in the morning. I mean, and
Okay.
if I were to participate in afternoon contests,
You'd still
I
be
would
good.
I would think honestly afternoon would be the best. in
I
my-
forgot about you already being there because you're moving. We're holding on to Aaron just like he's going to have a thin chain around his ankle. So when he goes up to,
Well,
was
does Lisa even know what's going on? Like I'm not in Fairfield anymore. I've been working out of the Quad Cities for the last few months. I got transferred. So.
They
Yeah.
didn't check with us first. How dare they?
well, the great thing with Zoom was that it doesn't really matter. So Aaron's committed.
Yeah.
He's staying in the,
Well, yeah, I've been living out of an extended stay for now. We close on the house on Friday. The movers come take our stuff on the 18th. So slowly but surely.
Okay. All
Does
right.
anyone have any other questions for Lisa while she's here? We always appreciate having Lisa join us.
What officers do we not have yet trained?
It's me and Carmen. We're both signed up for the Saturday, the 16th. Isn't that right, Carmen?
Yes, I think it was Saturday, right? Okay, yes.
Yeah.
So, of course, we want all of our officers trained. So that's good.
I will.
Yeah.
That'll be 7.
Okay. Just because we meet a minimum requirement, that's, so. We can't seem to get any new members, Lisa, but I don't know. The ones that we have are really high quality, I think. So, but did you want to?
You're not alone. You're not alone.
Yeah.
It's a hard time to have people join something on a Zoom.
Yeah. Aaron, you want to finish our meeting and then if
Yes.
anybody wants to stay?
Yes,
whatever.
we can do that. So thank you all for another successful meeting. Once again, officer training tomorrow at 8 p.m. I'll send out more details. Thank you, everyone. We'll see you next week or tomorrow.
Okay.
Thank you, Lisa.